And it can help save lives when all other communications fail. Coming up, how amateur radio works and how it's being used in our area. I'm Latanya Norton, live at the Bonneville Boat Launch. That story's coming up. News Channel 6 This Morning starts right now.
You're watching the WDSU Weekend Edition of News Channel 6 This Morning. On your side with the area's only live local news and weather.
Good morning. This is News Channel 6 This Morning. I'm Toslin Alfonso. We'll get to today's headlines in just a moment. But first, a quick check. And now for a look at what's happening today. This morning, communications experts from across the country are in the metro area preparing for emergencies. And WDSU anchor Latanya Norton joins us live from the Bonneville Boat Launch to explain today's exercise and how it could benefit our area. Good morning.
Toslin, good morning to you. And it's something that's already benefited our area on several occasions, namely during Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. We're talking about amateur radio, and today is Amateur Radio Field Day. Joining us live this morning is Mr. Keith Barnes, who is an amateur radio operator. And before us, Keith, we have an emergency communications deployment station. A lot of equipment here. What's all of this?
Basically, it's what we can take out in the field when we're called on by emergency management to set up emergency communications. High-frequency equipment, VHF and UHF equipment, Coast Guard radios to support their efforts. With this box, this antenna, and the rest of this equipment, we can go out and provide communications when normal communications fails.
In fact, one piece of technology right here was actually used during Hurricane Katrina.
Hurricane Katrina,
Tell us about this.
That's an HF radio. That was used at the Mounds Overpass pumping station by one of their operators who was working for the Surge and Water Board, who's a ham, who used that to help keep them in communication with other hams around the country so that they would know what was going on when their stuff was going down.
This is critically important to our area, an area that is so susceptible to disasters as so many parts of our country.
And it works not only when we're affected, but for instance, if Florida has an event and their operators are on the air, we go to our stations at our homes or at our radio clubs, turn on our equipment so that we're there for them when they have a need. So there's 730,000 amateur radio operators in the United States, and all of them hopefully have the capabilities to help us when there's a need.
Coming back right here on News Channel 6, we're going to talk about how there's so many ham operators in the country, but still you're having a hard time appealing to the younger generation. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we're also going to let you know that you have until 1 o'clock this afternoon to come on out to the Bonneville Boat Launch. You can talk one-on-one with ham operators. You can also look at some of this equipment, and you can also just kind of view what they do and get more of insight about how they use Morse code and other technologies and all of the emergency power sources to communicate during worst case scenarios. But for now, we're live in Metairie. Latanya Norton, WDSU. Back to you, Toslin.
730,000, that's pretty amazing. Thank you.
It is.
Well, also today, hundreds are expected.
And coming up on News Channel 6 this morning, we'll talk live with a ham who's used his radio skills to travel all over the world. I'm Latanya Norton. Stick around. That story's coming your way.
Well, the time now is 8. And now for a look at what's happening today. This morning, communications experts from across the country are in the metro area preparing for emergencies. WDSU anchor Latanya Norton joins us live from the Bonneville Boat Launch to explain today's exercise and how it could benefit our area. Good morning.
Toslin, good morning to you. You know, for some it's just a hobby, but for others it could mean the difference between life and death. We're talking about amateur radio this morning, and in case you didn't know, today is Amateur Radio Field Day. We have been joined all morning by Mr. Keith Barnes, who is representing the Amateur Radios of America, Radio Operators of America, I should say, and we're going to actually talk live to a ham, right?
Yes, we're going to call Mike Meyer, W5ZPA.
All right, let's do that right now. Mike, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
All right. Now, Mike, I'm told that you are a DXer. Tell me what a DXer is.
A DXer is a licensed ham radio operator that talks long distances via shortwave radio.
How many countries have you spoken to?
Well, we now call them entities. Years ago, we used to call them countries. There's 338 entities in the world, some habited, some inhabited, and I have worked all 338.
Mike, tell me quickly about some of the inventions that ham radio operators are credited with.
Well, we have a ham radio operator over in Florida that invented TiVo and remote devices and microwave.
And actually, there's something interesting about our station you were sharing with me.
Yes, we have Lindsay Riddle back in 1948 that made most of the equipment to put WDSU-TV on the air.
Wow, aren't we thankful for that? So once again, ham radio operators doing a lot for our country, but specifically we want to talk about helping during disaster preparedness. Mike, thank you so much for sharing your time with us right here on News Channel 6. And as we turn our attention now back to Keith Barnes, just talk to us about the importance of this technology during disasters.
When everything else fails, we'll be out there to help serve the community, law enforcement, civil side, Governor's Office of Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness. We train constantly to make sure that our equipment is up and running. We work with the incident command system programs that FEMA has. Homeland Security depends on us in all events.
And you have a track record. We're talking about flooding in the Midwest. We're talking about the recent earthquakes in China, 9/11, Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. The list goes on and on.
On and on. Every day somebody in amateur radio is trying to help.
If you have any questions about amateur radio, you can come out here to the Bonneville Boat Launch. You have until 1 o'clock this afternoon to learn all there is to know about amateur radio. You can speak one-on-one with these ham radio operators. You can take a look firsthand at this technology, and you never know, they may even let you speak to a ham radio operator, as we just did. On air. All right. Thank you so much, Keith.
You.
And Toslin is back to you, coming to you live from Metairie on your side, News Channel 6. Back to you, Toslin.
Very interesting. Thanks so much, Latanya. Well, also happening today, hundreds are down.
And from Morse code to digital technology, everything you need to know about amateur radio and how it's used during emergencies can be found right here at the Bonneville Boat Launch. I'm Latanya Norton, live in Metairie. That story's coming up. News Channel 6 this morning starts right now.
WDSU Weekend Edition of News Channel 6 this morning. On your side with the...
And now for a look at what's happening today. This morning, communications experts from across the country are in the metro area preparing for emergencies. WDSU News Channel 6 anchor Latanya Norton joins us live from the Bonneville Boat Launch to explain today's exercise and how it could benefit our area. Good morning.
Toslin, good morning to you. And as you know, we're about 1 month into hurricane season. First responders all over the area have been preparing, as well as ham radio operators. And joining us live this morning, we have Mr. Bob McBride, who is the District Emergency Coordinator for Amateur Radio Operators. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Tell us exactly what you do.
Basically, my job is a district coordinator. Each parish has a emergency coordinator for the amateur radios, emergency communications. I'm the district coordinator, which is the full parish area, Jefferson, Plaquemines, Orleans, and St. Bernard. And basically my job is just to coordinate their efforts and to coordinate the amateur radios and emergency communications.
And right now we're standing right behind an emergency communications deployment station. All of this right here. You encourage everyone to have one of these. This is a jump kit.
A jump kit. Basically it's a package of radios, various things they would need, equipment, pick it up and go wherever they need to go. Hook it up and go.
So in order for someone to have one of these, they would need to be a ham radio operator. Why is it so important for someone to become one of these?
Well, we need a lot of help. We need volunteers, and it's a volunteer situation so that everybody can't be available all the time. So the more volunteers you have, the better chance you have enough people to do.
You mentioned that you need a lot of help and that you need more people. Is this a dying art? Is this something that the younger generation, it really doesn't appeal to the younger generation? Do they look at all of this and think this is outdated?
It's not as much interest because computers have kind of grabbed their interest and they're not as interested. Although the newer technologies of digital like this here may get some of them back. There's a lot of interest in it now from that standpoint.
What can people expect when they come out here today?
Lots of information, and we can get them on the radio over here on what we call a go-to station, and they don't need a license to operate that station. We can let them find out what it's like.
All right, thank you once again. I'm Bob McBride, who is the District Emergency Coordinator for Amateur Radio Operators. Thank you for joining us. And once again, you have until 1 o'clock this afternoon to come out here and find out how amateur radio works. I'm telling you, you're going to be fascinated when you talk to someone over the air, on the radio, and also when you take a look firsthand of all of this technology dating back to Morse code, as we said earlier, to digital technology. On your side, live in Metairie, Latanya Norton, WDSU News Channel 6. Back to you, Toslin.
Sounds very fascinating. Thank you. Also today, hundreds are